Hey everyone. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? About a year or so. But here is my first of season 5 of Dark Side of the Ring. My review on it, my take on it. The first episode was called The Ballad of Earthquake John Tenta. I can tell you as a fan that, growing up watching WWE, WWF, I knew who Earthquake was. I of course was one of those fans that was kind of like, being a kid, in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, you're kind of going in and out of certain things like, wrestling you can be interested in, but you're more sometimes interested in cartoons and stuff. And that's kind of how I was. And it wasn't until around like the late 80s, early 90s that I really started to get more into it, thanks to my older sister and also what, other people in my family were saying. So, excuse me. Basically, one of the first big time feuds that I saw on television, of course, with the WWF was Earthquake against Hulk Hogan, and this was one of the feuds that, like I said, got me to watching on a regular basis, and it really got me to watch and want to see, I should say, not watch live, but want to see the Survivor Series 1990, which was one of the major first pay-per-views I first watched, even though I had to rent it on VHS later on. I did see it, and um, I enjoyed what I saw and everything. I really enjoyed, every moment of it. Um, I'm trying to think of what I was going to say. Uh, I also did, watch, like I said, most of his career. Um, and what they did here with this episode, with this season premiere, is they went over pretty much some of the things you knew about him. If you were, if you really dug deep into his career, they really touched upon, you know, how he began, how he got into wrestling, how he wanted to be a pro wrestler since he was a kid, since he was young, mostly a kid, yeah. And how he basically went into sumo first. Well, actually, I think what they said there was he started wrestling. I think they said he started wrestling. Yeah, mostly in sumo. I think that's what they said. He, he basically started in sumo. Um, he started in sumo for a bit. Because he was a wrestler. For his high school, he was a wrestler for LSU for the Tigers and stuff. And then, like I said, he went to Japan, became a sumo wrestler for a while, was undefeated. That was one thing I don't think anybody touched upon yet. He was undefeated, as a sumo wrestler. So that was pretty good. And he retired. He retired from that though because I think the regiment or something like that. I can't really recall. It was just like it just felt like it wasn't he wasn't really working out for him. You know, it wasn't like working out for him. Basically, I think he just lost a little passion for it, but he still had that background, and I think it's alluded to because the people they had on here, the people they had on this episode were Jake the Snake. They had Haku, Earl Hebner, who I didn't even recognize until, he said who he was. And it's like, whoa, that's Earl Hebner? Okay. They had Earl Hebner. They had Jerry Sags. They had John Tenta's family, of course. Um, they also had this guy named Saito, not the wrestler Saito, but this guy's a Japanese wrestling historian. So so he had a lot of people talking on his behalf, talking about who he was and everything. And basically, they went over, like I said, his career, how he went to be a sumo wrestler, was revered there in Japan, and it was during his stint in Japan as a sumo wrestler, I think they mentioned that he had met his wife. He met his wife, and they married, and his wife already had a child. She already had a child and everything. She already had a child, and I think they have. I think they. I don't know if they don't bring his personal. I'm trying to think here. Hold on. Let me see. But yeah, they had his wife. Um, yeah, her name was Josephine. Oh my goodness, I was when I saw that name, I didn't say anything at first, but I was like, that kind of hit me a little bit because Josephine. I'm like that was my grandma's name. That was my grandma's name. So they had her and everything. They had her. They had their son. They had her son, which John basically became. John Tenta became his dad, kind of like my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, whose first stepfather just passed away. He viewed him basically as his stepdad. As his dad. His legitimate dad. Because his real dad passed away when he was like young. So his first stepdad was, basically his dad, if you will. That's how Josephine's son viewed John. And then they had the daughter, Joanna. Oh my gosh, that's my aunt's name too, Joanna. And I think she was born later, of both John and Josephine. And then they had John Tenta Jr. Well, he wasn't Junior, but he was just John Tenta. But yeah, he's a junior, basically. He was a junior. And they had them, and like I said, they had Haku. They had